Welcome to another edition of the Up Your Assets podcast, hosted by Ray Ferarra, CFP founder and executive chair of Provice Management Group, LLC. The following presentation is for general information purposes only and not personalized advice. Seek out a professional before making any financial decisions. Additionally, no guests pay to be on the show or are paid to be on the show, and the opinions expressed are their own and not the host's or the show.
Good afternoon. This is Ray Ferarra, your host for today's webinar, sponsored by Provice Management Group. And today we're going to be talking about Social Security and retirement, what you need to know before you claim, and in some cases, perhaps even after you have claimed. I'm the founder and executive chair of Provice, as well as the host of our podcast, Up Your Assets. And with me today is our resident expert on Social Security, Sandy Risgaard, CFP. So Sandy, welcome, and please tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Ray. Yeah, my name is Sandy Risgaard, and I am a senior financial planner here at Provice. I've been in the industry for about 30 years, in the last 5 of it here at Provice. I do work with a lot of clients to understand Social Security, and I have the National Social Security Advisor's designation. And I guess without any further ado, let's go ahead and turn it over to what we're going to talk about today.
Well, that'll be great. Maybe you'd take just a moment and explain to them the designation that you just referred to on Social Security.
Sure. This is it's a course taught by a couple of people that spent their entire careers at the Social Security Administration, and it really digs in depth in all kinds of different scenarios to help understand the ins and outs, because unfortunately Social Security is a very complicated system and difficult to get a lot of good information. So took the time to dive in and really understand it more. And we also have a resource to go back and ask additional questions for when things even get more complicated.
And it certainly is complicated when you look at all of the permutations that result with Social Security. So let's jump right in.
Sure. So just as a preview, if you don't have your Social Security benefit information yet, the easiest way to get that for most people is to create a login to the Social Security website, which is www.ssa.gov. If it's the first time you've been in there, it takes a little bit to create that login. But once you're in there, you can see your entire earnings history throughout your career. And you can also see the expected benefit amounts at various ages. So if you were to claim early, if you were to claim at what they call full retirement age, or if you were to wait, you kind of see how that amount changes from year to year. You can also, if you're already taking Social Security, you can change your direct deposit information in there. If you want to sign up for Social Security, you can do that on the website. Lots of different functionality there. If for whatever reason the website doesn't work for you, or maybe you have some more in-depth, more complicated questions, you can call Social Security on their 1-800 number. You can give them a call, set up an appointment to go down to your local office or to speak with an expert over the phone as well.
Sandy, given that today was the shutdown with the government, what do you think the odds are of getting an answer at Social Security today?
That's a great question. Certainly, the individuals at Social Security that are responsible for processing payment, those are what they call essential workers. So nothing will happen to those folks. Payments will still get made. But you're absolutely right, Ray, that some people could potentially get furloughed. And so getting someone at the office may take more time. You may not be able to get an answer right away. So that could cause some hiccups in the situation.
What is the cost of living adjustment, and why is it important, Sandy?
Sure. So the COLA for short is the automatic inflation adjusted increase that you get each year on your Social Security benefit amount. And they haven't announced the inflation increase for 2026 yet, but we're pretty sure it's going to be a 2.7% increase. And so every year, your Social Security benefits are going to be adjusted upward based on the the overall inflation rate. And theoretically, with this inflation adjustment, you should be able to maintain your purchasing power. And by that, I mean you should be able to buy the same sorts of things every year that you did in the past. Now, on a reality perspective, that doesn't always work out as well as it should. The cost of living adjustment on Social Security is based on a number called CPIW, which is the average cost of inflation for workers. And retirees tend to spend money a little bit differently, and most importantly, they spend more money on healthcare. And healthcare is something that has increased at a much higher rate than inflation overall. So even though your Social Security benefit is going up, if your cost of healthcare, think about your Medicare premiums, if you have a Medigap supplement, those things may increase 11%. And that's the expectation for 2026 is that Medicare premiums are going up 11.5% versus the 2.7% for Social Security. That does tend to eat into that over time.
It sure does. So let's put that 2.7% for every $1,000 you're getting a month. That's going to translate into $27 during the year. So it's not going to be a lot, is it, Sandy?
It's not. And if you think about, the average Social Security benefit is about $2,000. So at 2.7%, that's 50 some dollar raise. But if your Medicare premium went up $30, okay, now that's only a $20 raise. If you had Medigap insurance, that probably went up as well. And so it's not nearly as attractive as it might seem at first, but still important that it does increase every year. A little bit different than private pensions tend to be or annuities, which are generally a flat amount forever. So you do maintain some purchasing power.
Sandy, let's stay on COLA for just a minute. What if the COLA is less than what the increase in my Medicare premium is? Does that mean my benefit will go down?
Yeah, it certainly could. If your COLA was 2.7%, let's say, you've got that $2,000 benefit, but now let's say that you're subject to additional cost of Medicare. Maybe you're in one of those situations where you're paying the IRMA surcharges. Your Medicare may go up by much more than that $20, which could it could definitely negatively impact your Social Security benefit. So you're actually getting slightly less next year.
And with what you just referred to as IRMA, don't want people to be, what is an IRMA? We are going to explain that in a few minutes. So
sure.
When's the best time for me to file? Especially, let's say I'm single. What's the best age for me to file?
So certainly the question gets a little easier when you're single because you're just looking at your own lifetime and deciding what benefit amount you want. But it can vary drastically. It can vary drastically. You can file as early as 62 or as late as 70. But here's a quick example. If you're full retirement age, not to confuse anybody, that's generally age 67. Was a little lower in the past, but for most people these days, it's age 67. So let's say that you're eligible for $2,000 at age 67. If you decided that you wanted to turn it on at 62, that benefit amount's only going to be $1,400. You're taking a pretty significant deduction for filing a few years early. If, on the other hand, you wait until age 70, that benefit amount would be almost $2,500. So that's a big difference. But again, you're only looking at your own lifetime, and you're going to remember that this is a benefit that you're going to have forever. Do you want to be stuck at $1,400 forever, or is it worth it to work a little longer, receive the benefits a little longer in order to get the $2,500 benefits starting at age 70? The one quick caveat is the earnings test, and that really applies to people that continue to work before full retirement age. Let's imagine that you're 65 and you're still working, but you'd like to start your benefits. If you're working and earning over about $23,000 a year, then your Social Security benefit will be reduced. So always have to keep that in mind if you're looking to file before that full retirement age amount.
So Sandy, let me go back through that again just a moment, make sure I've got it right.
Sure.
First of all, my benefit's going to be reduced if I take it earlier than age 67. But
Yes.
then, if I understood you correctly, that generally, if I earn more than $23,000, if I'm maybe working part time or doing some consulting work, and I'm before my full retirement age, my benefit will go down even further. Could it go to zero then?
It absolutely could. Yes. So what happens with the reduction is that you lose $1 of benefits for every $2 that you earn over that $23,000 threshold. So it doesn't take a ton of income to completely reduce and eliminate your Social Security benefit amount.
It feels like and looks like a double whammy to me.
Yes.
Well, that's what happens if you're single. What about if you're a married couple? What are the different things that you need to consider there?
So a married couple becomes a little bit more complicated because you're not just looking at your own benefit, you're looking at the benefit of the family. So you've got two spouses, both are going to have Social Security benefit amounts. What happens is that sooner or later, one of them is going to pass away, and the remaining spouse would continue to collect the higher benefit. So you really want to look at that over the entire lifetime of the family unit rather than just one person to say, does it make sense to file early and subject the spouse to a lower benefit for the rest of his or her lifetime? And it gets complicated. Just to throw another wrench into it, it's not just people that are currently married. You may also have benefits in opportunities if you happen to have been married to someone and now you're divorced. If you've been married for 10 years and you didn't get remarried, you may be eligible for spousal benefits off of a previous spouse. There's so much that really goes into it if you're a married couple. We have some great software to put all of the parameters together and lay it out and see how these things work with each other, and guide people on the better time to file. But I don't think there's ever a easy answer for these types of things.
And now you mentioned something about that when one of the couple dies, the other one gets the higher benefit. What happens to their benefit at that point?
Yeah. So if someone passes away, then and the survivor claims the higher benefit, then the original benefit that the wage earner had does disappear. So you can't collect two benefits at once. You only get one.
All right. So it seems like it's a little more complicated for those married couples. Do we have some rules of thumb that we can, continue? I always caution people. I hate rules of thumb. That's why I wish we could cut our thumbs off so we couldn't have rules of thumb, because they sometimes can get you into trouble.
Absolutely agree 100%. Kind of the rule of thumb is that generally you would want the lower earner to file first and allow the higher earner to wait as long as possible, because the longer you wait, the higher the benefit amount is going to be. And that higher benefit amount is going to have a higher COLA in terms of dollar increases every year. And it's going to persist throughout both of their lifetimes, because it's going to transfer to the survivor. You're absolutely right in terms of the rule of thumb doesn't work all the time. And that's why I mentioned the software that we have to really dive in and understand for each particular situation what might work best for someone.
That's great. Now, you said the longer you wait, the more you get. Is there a maximum age at which it doesn't make sense to wait anymore?
Yes, generally age 70 is going to be the absolute last time there to file for benefits. There is one quick exception we'll talk to in a few minutes, but for the most part, your benefits are not going to increase. They're never going to increase after age 70. So you probably want to make sure you file before that or at that time.
Well, in the good old days, married couples were able to use different strategies for the spousal benefit. And then one time you would be able to draw on one spouse and then switch and go to your own. Can I still do that?
Yeah, unfortunately, those rules or those strategies were phased out or went away several years ago. Those were called file and suspend and file and restrict. Those are no longer allowed. So you're not able to switch between your own benefit and a spousal benefit. But if you are eligible for a survivor benefit, that's completely different. And the difference, of course, is if it's a survivor benefit, it's based off someone who's passed away. So if you are eligible for that, then you can take your own benefit for a while and then switch to a survivor benefit later, or vice versa. And that's really a great opportunity to, for someone that's in an unfortunate position that may be eligible for survivor benefits, but a great opportunity to make sure that they're maximizing their allowable benefits. Um, yeah.
Well, that makes me ask the question: if I did something maybe in the wrong way, is there an opportunity for me to correct it along the way?
There is. So we're talking about the oops options, right? The gosh, I filed for Social Security and I wish I hadn't.
Right.
Is that
Or
what
maybe I go back to work, and I know I'm going to be over that $23,000 limit.
yeah.
Can I stop and then pick it back up again later?
You absolutely can. There are two options that I don't think a lot of people know about. One is called to withdraw your application, and with that, you have a once in a lifetime opportunity to do it, and you only have 12 months. So let's say that you started your benefits at 62, and then this amazing job opportunity came along 6 months later, and you decided that you wanted to go back to work. Well, in that case, you could withdraw your application by paying back all of the benefits you received, and then asking Social Security to withdraw the application. And it's like you never filed to start with. And then you can turn your benefits on later. Um, The other option is called suspending your benefits. And now that one's only available after you reach full retirement age. It doesn't require you to pay anything back. But what you do is you stop let's say you're receiving your benefits starting at 63, you get to 67, you ask Social Security to suspend them, and then they're able to, you don't get benefits then, but they're able to accumulate those delayed retirement credits and grow and become bigger. And then when you turn them on again, you can have a higher benefit amounts later on.
Wow, I feel like I'm on the top of a top while it's spinning around viciously with all of the different options again that we've already started to talk about. What
Sure.
other strategies can be employed?
So something I talked a little bit about before were retroactive benefits. And those are when you file for Social Security, if you happen to be over your full retirement age, you can ask for retroactive benefits for up to 6 months. And where this can be strategic, it doesn't happen to a lot of people, but it kind of all the stars have to line up, but it can be. If you wanted to pull income into a different tax year for tax purposes, that's something that can be done. So imagine that you are a high wage earner and your birthday, let's say you're 70 years old, your birthday happens to be in July and you're retiring at the end of the year. Okay, so in this situation, you could actually file for benefits in January when you're 70 and a half, and you pull 6 months worth of benefits into the following tax year when maybe you're in a lower tax situation. This is something that is also an immediate question for anyone that files for Social Security benefits and they're over the full retirement age is if they would like to receive the retroactive benefits. We do want to always make sure people are careful with that because let's imagine that you wait till age 70 because you want to get the highest benefit possible. And so then you call Social Security to start your benefits and the representative ask if you'd like to get 6 months worth of retroactive benefits. And let's say the benefit amount is $3,000. Well, that's a nice lump sum check to get for $18,000. But be careful if you take those retroactive benefits, now the monthly benefit going forward is going to be reduced to the age 69 and a half benefit amount. So you're stuck with the lower benefit for the rest of the days. So just be careful with that question. It's not always clear to people exactly what that means to take those retroactive benefits. And
Well,
then
I,
sorry, Ray,
I
go ahead.
assume, I assume our software helps with all of that as well.
Absolutely, you bet. And then the other couple of benefits that are available that a lot of people don't know about would be for dependent children and potentially child and care benefits. And those come into play if someone is at Social Security eligible age. Let's say they're 62. And if you have a child in elementary school, middle school, high school, they're eligible for benefits as well. So maybe someone is 62 and they have a 10-year-old child and originally thinking, gosh, I might want to wait until I'm 70 to take my benefits. But if they do that, then their child won't receive the benefits. The wage earner actually has to turn them on in order for the dependent children and potentially a spouse who's helping care for that dependent child to receive benefits. Again, this is a math type question. Let's take a look at this and see what happens if the benefit for the wage earner is permanently reduced forever, but there's additional benefits from age, let's say, for in this scenario, until 62 to age 70, for the child to be able to get additional benefit amounts.
Well, let's switch gears for a moment and let's talk about taxation a little bit on Social Security benefits. During the campaign, President Trump, then candidate Trump, was talking about eliminating taxes on Social Security. Interestingly, about 62% of the people do not pay any taxes on Social Security anyway, but he was going to eliminate it for everybody. What did happen with regards to that, and what's the present state? I'm afraid that a lot of people think that they were eliminated.
Sure, that would be nice. But one of the problems with eliminating taxes on Social Security are that those taxes go back into the pot to fund future Social Security benefits. So that would have, and we'll probably talk about that in a minute, but the Social Security system's a little shaky as it is, and to reduce the amount of money that would be available for future benefits probably doesn't make sense. So what they did create was an additional deduction for anyone over age 65. This isn't necessarily tied to Social Security. Doesn't matter if you're getting Social Security. Doesn't matter if you turn on Social Security early. It really decouples from whether or not you're receiving benefits. It's really based more on your age. So if you're over age 65, you can potentially get an additional $6,000 deduction on your taxes, which means that you're able to write off that income. But a lot of people will be phased out with that. So if you're earning over $150,000 as a married couple or $75,000 as a single person, then you may potentially, or you may be phased out. You're going to start getting phased out on that credit that may have helped limit those taxes on your Social Security benefits.
So not everybody's going to get the tax break.
They are not. No, the administration has released some expectations that 90%, that this additional deduction will help 90% of Social Security Social Security recipients from paying taxes on their benefits. I find that a little hard to believe. I'm sure they've done the work, but I rarely see someone that doesn't have to pay taxes on their Social Security benefits, and I have a feeling that this won't help most of the people that we see every day.
Sandy, one of the things that's always boggled my mind, particularly when it comes to taxes, that the government is constantly changing based on cost of living increases, whatever their limits are. But the thresholds that you just talked about as it relates to on Social Security have been in the same threshold for some 35 years. They go all the way back to the Clinton administration. So I guess that's forcing more and more people to have to pay taxes on their Social Security as time goes along. Is that right?
Yes, that is completely accurate. That it used to be hardly anyone paid taxes on Social Security, but as inflation has increased our incomes and those brackets haven't changed, more and more people are getting pulled into the tax trap of having to pull that Social Security income into their taxable income calculation.
So you mentioned that there were income limits on the extra deduction. are there things that you can do to lower your income to still maybe get the deduction?
Yeah, the thresholds are based on your adjusted gross income, or your AGI on your tax return. So anything that could lower AGI could help you fall below those limits. So something like tax loss harvesting could help. Qualified charitable distributions that come directly from your IRA, that could help. If one of the spouses is still working, pre-tax 401k contributions or traditional IRA contributions might help. And then the other thing would be taking a distribution from your Roth IRA or Roth 401k in order to um, create income for your living expenses. That doesn't get pulled into your income calculation, and that doesn't flow into your AGI either. So there are a few things that people can do to reduce that AGI amount.
We talked about this just a little bit, but let's go back and kind of speak about it again. If I've already started my benefits, and I wish that I had waited, tell me again, what is it that I can do?
So, a couple things you can do. You can either withdraw your application or suspend your benefits. And to withdraw your application, it does have to be within 12 months, and you do have to pay back any benefits you received. You have to pay it all back in one lump sum. So it's a good opportunity for the right person. Most people are not keen on writing a big check for all of those benefits, but it is available. The other thing would be to suspend your benefits, and that's if you're over full retirement age or at full retirement age, you can stop receiving your benefits now, allow them to grow a bit, and turn them back on later.
So, any updates on Social Security? I mean, it's been around for a long time. Anything happened recently that folks might want to be aware of?
So one of the biggest things, of course, we talked about at the beginning, the government shutdown and how that will impact your benefit payments, and shouldn't impact your payments at all, but maybe the staffing of the Social Security offices, things may take a little bit of time. That would be one big thing. Another thing would be paper checks have been eliminated as of yesterday. So there were still about 400,000 people receiving paper checks. They are no longer going to process those. So those have gone away. At the beginning of the year, and this doesn't impact a lot of people that we talk with day to day, but we certainly know people that this has impacted, would be the elimination of WEP and GPO. And what that is if you happen to be receiving a pension from an organization that you work for that you did not pay Social Security taxes to. So for most people, this might be the federal government. A lot of teachers in police and fire, especially in states like Ohio, Massachusetts, some in Texas, California, Louisiana. If you didn't pay into Social Security for those jobs, then your Social Security benefit that you may have received as a spouse or from another job that you had outside of the public sector work, your Social Security benefit was reduced or potentially eliminated. That provision was repealed back at the beginning of the year, and it went retroactive to January of 2024. Now, most people have already had things adjusted. So they got a lump sum payment for what they should have had in 2024, and then their monthly benefit amounts have been adjusted upwards. We've seen that happen to several people. Occasionally it gets missed. And sometimes there are people out there that never filed for Social Security because originally with this GPO provision, they weren't eligible. So we've had a couple of clients that didn't think they were eligible for Social Security benefits, and they weren't before, so they never applied. Well, Social Security doesn't know about you, so you're going to have to tell them. So if anyone is in that situation, please let us know. We can certainly help out with that because that's something that you're entitled to. And if you had never been receiving, you're only going to get 6 months of retroactive benefits. But the sooner that you call them, the quicker that you can get those 6 months started and get your benefits reinstated.
So, we have some questions that have been flowing in, and the first one, which was a very basic one, and that is, how do I apply? I think he touched on it briefly in the beginning, but let's kind of go back to that because that's kind of what starts the whole process anyway.
Absolutely. If you have a pretty simple situation, let's just say you know that you want to apply, you know you only have your own benefit, or maybe you want to consider your spouse's too, but it's pretty straightforward. The easiest way to do that is to go online, and takes all of about 15 minutes. Um, just be aware that you will need to know obviously your social security number, your spouse's social security number, the date of any marriages, and potentially any divorces as well. As long as you have all of that information handy, it's a really quick and easy process. If things are a little bit more complicated, or you're not comfortable going online for whatever reason, then you can call Social Security. And what they'll do is, when you reach somebody, they will set you up with an appointment, and that person will call you, or you can schedule a time to go into the office physically, and then you can start the process. Then the person that you talk to over the phone will put the information into the system. Just be aware that it's not necessarily quick. A lot of times, at least in my experience, hold times um, are a while, and a lot of times when you set up that appointment with Social Security, it may be 4 to 6 weeks out.
Here's an interesting one. You talked a little bit about divorce earlier. This person said, I was married for 34 years and then now divorced. I was told I could claim now on his Social Security and switch to mine at 67. Is that correct? I'm currently age 65.
So unfortunately, that is not something, assuming that he's still alive. You are eligible to claim a spousal benefit, but right now, Social Security has something called deemed filing. And with deemed filing, it means when you file for the benefits, you are filing for both the spousal and your own benefit, and you're filing for both at the same time, and you receive the higher of the two. The only time you can switch is if he had passed away. That's a different situation. In that case, you can file for survivor's benefit off of him now, and then switch to your own later on.
So let me add a different situation for you. And this is a client that I spoke with. She happened to be a government employee, had been married for 10 years, was divorced from her husband. And when I was chatting with her and told her that I felt that she would qualify for Social Security based on his Social Security to be able to get half of whatever his benefit was, she told me I didn't know what I was talking about. And it took a lot of arm twisting for me to and things to share with her to convince her that it was worth it. But to your point earlier, because she was a government employee and was entitled to it during 24, she ended up with a lump sum of about $24,000 and a benefit that ended up being about $1,800 a month. Think about that on a time 12 basis. That was a very nice raise for somebody who was in retirement.
Absolutely. And thank goodness you mentioned something, Ray, because this is a situation where Social Security doesn't know about you because she wasn't eligible before. She never filed.
Yeah.
So it is, you do have to raise your hand and tell Social Security now that you're eligible for this.
Yeah. So what happens if in taking Social Security benefits, one becomes disabled, which might pay more than what I was entitled to for working? Is it easy to switch to the disability amount?
So it is not necessarily easy to get on to Social Security disability. That is a process. Usually, not always, usually takes some time to get there. So most of the time, I mean, if you're thinking about, if you're 63 and thinking about the disability benefit instead, you may not have time for the Social Security or to go on to disability, because at age 65, you automatically go from Social Security back to at 65, you go from the disability benefit automatically back to Social Security.
Okay. So this is a long question, so bear with me. How exactly does the Social Security Administration apply the earnings test? Do they simply base it on what is reported on my W-2? I've been retired for the past 4 years. but I continue to receive payments from my executive benefit program. So for the next 10 years, this income will be reported on a W-2, even though I'm no longer working. How would this executive benefit payouts for past service be treated for the earnings test?
So that's something we'd have to look at a little bit more closely, but I don't believe it should be counted as earnings because this is part of the executive benefit plan rather than actual earnings. You're not going to work every day and doing something, but we'd want to dive into that a little bit more.
The other thing that strikes me on that question, Sandy, is that if the executive benefit is less than what one of the previous year's earnings had already been, and was not going to be able to replace something from the previous 30 years, it wouldn't make any difference anyway. But if it's a tidy sum over, based knock off one of those years back there, that would be nice. But absolutely, let us know about it, and we'll dive into it deeper. So does the rule of thumb apply even if the lower earner is older? Like, let's say that the lower earner is 5 years difference.
Potentially, but like we talked about before, it's difficult with the rule of thumb because there are so many variables that go into place. It does depend on the age difference. It also depends on the benefit amounts. Is there a huge discrepancy or is it a small discrepancy? So really something that we want to sit down and very specifically look at those details just to make sure that that makes sense.
Frank asked if the higher earning spouse reaches 70 before the lower earning spouse reaches 62, when does it make the most sense for the lower earning spouse to claim Social Security benefits?
So it's probably going to make sense if the older spouse starts at 70, probably going to make sense for that lower earning spouse to start right at 62. But again, probably, we just don't know what the difference is in the amounts. We don't know about the health of the of the two spouses in question. We don't know about outside assets. I mean, just so many variables that come into play that we'd really want to take a look at before we gave any specific advice.
So Rick has asked us to repeat how if you're married and it's my time to retire, but my spouse won't retire for 7 years, how does that affect my Social Security income?
So we each have our own record, so it won't matter if the spouse is still working in terms of how much I'm eligible for, right? If I'm at retirement age. Where it may come into play is the taxability of those earnings. So if the spouse's income is still relatively high, then it's very likely that 85% of the Social Security benefit does get pulled in as taxable income for the retired spouse.
Yeah, all right. And then it seems to be a lot of this difference in age questions that are coming up. Can you repeat if it's better if the higher income earner starts taking benefits before the lower income earner ? Higher income earner is 4 years older. Kind of the same question that we just had.
Sure. And again, it's difficult to know without knowing all the specifics. But if we're looking at that rule of thumb, it's the higher earner waits until 70 if possible. The lower earner then turns it on as soon as they're able. Again, rule of thumb, and we want to really understand all the other factors that go into play before we give a definitive answer.
And again, I just want to repeat what I said before. You got to be careful of those rules of thumb because sometimes they don't work.
Exactly.
All right. I turned 70 in July of 26. My Social Security benefit will be $52,000 per year. My wife turned 62 in November of 25. At what age can she claim the spousal benefit based on my $52,000 per year? And is her benefit equal to one half of mine?
So kind of, sort of. So let me start with the first question. When can she start her spousal benefit? As soon as you turn yours on, she's eligible to start. If she's 62 and wants to start at 62, but the higher earner hasn't turned his on yet, then no, you can't. You have to wait until that's when the button flips, is when if you're looking at spousal, the higher earner needs to start his. The other question about the 50%, Yes, but spousal benefits are 50% of your full retirement age amount. So if you're getting 52,000 at age 70, maybe your full retirement benefit amount was I don't know, $40,000. In that case, then the spousal benefit would be $20,000, but also reduced for her age. If she starts at 62, it's going to be reduced further.
It'd be about a third less if she started at age 62.
Yes.
Yeah. So how early should I apply prior to the time of retirement?
So generally about 2 months or so before you're ready to start collecting that you can go ahead and apply for benefits. If you're starting at age 62, they don't actually start until age 62 in 1 month. It's just the way that it works. I don't know why. But yeah, about 2 months ahead of time.
Unless, of course, the government is shut down.
Sure.
I think I heard that still working after age 67, that your Social Security benefit is not reduced, that there's no salary max cap.
That is correct. Yes, you can work as much as you'd like, earn as much income as you like. Your Social Security benefits will not be reduced because of that, those work earnings after full retirement age.
And also important that even we talked about the maximum benefit is at age 70, but more and more people are working past the age of 70. In fact, I looked at a recent statistic that showed something like around 9% of seniors who are 70 and above actually continue to work. And if those subsequent years have better earnings than back 30 years ago, not only will you get a Social Security a COLA increase that we talked about at the beginning of the show, but you'll also get a bump because the average earnings over that 30 years went up during the same period of time. Am I saying that correctly and clearly?
You are. I understood correctly. Or understood perfectly.
Well, I think that was our last question. Nope, no, we have, we just, as soon as I said that, we had two more pop in. Can I apply for Medicare at 65 if I don't start Social Security? That's a good one.
Absolutely, you can. And there are a couple things to be aware of. Let's imagine, and I guess it depends if you're still working. But yes, you can apply for Medicare. I'm not going to go into all the details. We could be here for another half an hour. But yes, you can apply for Medicare at 65 and continue to delay receipt of your Social Security benefits. The only difference is that usually Medicare is deducted from your Social Security payment. But if you're not receiving benefits, then you will you pay generally on a quarterly basis. You pay for Medicare.
I will mention that we're in the process of scheduling a Up Your Assets podcast on Medicare. We're coming up to the enrollment period here in another 15 days. So perhaps listening to that will help a little bit. The other thing I would point out, what a lot of people don't realize is that at age 65, even if you don't sign up for full Medicare and you continue with your group insurance, Part A of Medicare becomes your primary insurer for hospitalization, not for your doctors and your testing, et cetera, which is fall under Part B, nor drugs, which are Part D, but you automatically get enrolled into Medicare for Part A. And the reason a lot of people don't know that they're in it is that they don't have to pay a premium for it, which is why so many people think that Medicare is free. Well, here is for the moment, our last question. Do you have to sign up for anything if you're going to still work until 65, or do you just sign up 2 months before you decide to retire?
So there's nothing you need to sign up for prior to wanting to start your Social Security benefits. Not everyone times those exactly. And some people want their job income to end and then Social Security income to start perfectly. So, in that case, you want to make sure that you're signing up a couple months ahead of time and requesting that your benefits start the month after you retire. But you can also stop working and then 6 months later start filing for benefits, but there's nothing you need to do ahead of time.
Okay. So I think I understand this question. I'm going to try to reword it a little bit for you, Sandy. Is the minimum 23,000 maximum that you can earn if taking Social Security benefit the same for all people, regardless of the income you've put in over the previous years. And I think what the person is asking is there a difference in the amount that you can earn as opposed to 23,000, dependent upon what your income is from the previous year over the previous years?
No, those two things are not related. Something to, just to throw another complicating factor in there for that. We say 23,000, but it can be, if you happen to be in the calendar year that you're turning full retirement age, it can be more than that. Could be closer to $56,000, I believe, for the kind of the income limit. But that only happens that year that you're turning 67 or whenever your full retirement age amount is. It also can be a little different if you, in the first year that you're claiming Social Security benefits. Let's say in January you had let's say you're in a sales role or something, and you had a very large commission in January and February that put you over that $23,000 limit. You turn your benefits on in July, and for the rest of the year, you're just going to make a minimal amount, maybe $1,000 a month, say. That's okay. That first year that you do that, they're actually looking at that monthly amount to make sure it doesn't go over the 1/12 of the 23,000. That only happens in your first year. They're actually ignoring the beginning of the year. But other than that, I'm not. The 23,000 doesn't really matter what happened last year in your earnings history.
The one thing that is important, I think, for folks hopefully have gotten from this is it's complicated.
It's incredibly complicated. Yes.
The government has not made it easy at all. And if I wanted to talk to us more relative to this software that you've talked about, what would be the best way for somebody who's listening today to reach out to us and find out if we can help them from an income tax or from a Social Security benefit tax standpoint?
Sure. I think the easiest way would either be to give us a call or to send us an email. Our phone number, I believe, is on the invite that you got, but it's 727-441-9022. Or you can email us, and we'd be happy to. Perfect. Thank you, Ray. We'd be happy to try to address your questions more specifically and give you some more detailed information based on your specific situation.
So here's one more question popped in during right then. So let's try to answer Rick's question. If I own a company and I retire and the company continues making money, but I'm not taking a salary, does it affect my benefits?
If you are under full retirement age, it can potentially. There's a lot of nuances in there that I'd really want to have an in-depth conversation with you about. But potentially, yes, that could be. Self-employment income is a little bit different than normal W-2 income.
One of the things I would say in answer to the question is if you're truly retired and not taking a salary, and you are simply getting dividends from the company, that's going to be one thing. But if you say you're retired and you just don't take a salary anymore, but you still go to work every day, that's a different problem that needs to be addressed. So we need to have further conversation. Well, Sandy, I want to thank you again for all of the insights that you were able to share today during the presentation, and particularly for the questions that were raised. For everybody who is still with us, we have recorded this. It will go up on our website within the next couple of days. And so you can look at it again, or you can tell others to come and take a look at it. If you still have a question, reach out to Sandy. She's our expert at 727-441-9022, or you can send an email to info at provise.com, and we'll route that to Sandy, and she'll be happy to reach back out to you. Want to thank everybody for being with us again today. Hope that you enjoyed our webinar. And we want to wish you all a great fall as we get into hopefully some cooler weather for all of us that are here in Florida. Thanks again. Have a wonderful day and take care.